There was a summoner with us in the place who had a fire-red cherubinish face, for he had carbuncles. His eyes were narrow. He was as hot and lecherous as a sparrow. Black scabby brows he had, and a thin beard. Children were afraid when he appeared. No quicksilver, lead ointments, tartar creams, boracic, no, nor brimstone, so it seems, could make a salve that had the power to bite, clean up, or curve his whelks of knobby white, or purge the pimples sitting on his cheeks. Garlic he loved, and onions too, and leeks, and drinking strong wine till all was hazy. Then he would shout and jabber as if crazy, and wouldn't speak a word except in Latin when he was drunk, such tags as he was pat in. He only had a few, say 2 or 3, that he had mugged up out of some decree. No wonder, for he heard them every day, and, as you know, a man can teach a jay to call out Walter better than the Pope. But had you tried to test his wits and grope for more, you'd have found nothing in the bag. Then quaestio quid juris was his tag. He was a gentle varlet and a kind one, no better fellow if you went to find one. He would allow, just for a quart of wine, any good lad to keep a concubine a 12-month, and dispense it altogether. Yet he could pluck a finch to leave no feather. And, if he found some rascal with a maid, he would instruct him not to be afraid in such a case of the archdeacon's curse, unless the rascal's soul were in his purse, for in his purse the punishment should be. "Purse is the good archdeacon's hell," said he, but well I know he lied in what he said. A curse should put a guilty man in dread, for curses kill, as shriving brings, salvation. We should beware of excommunication. Thus, as he pleased, the man could bring duress on any young fellow in the diocese. He knew their secrets. They did what he said. He wore a garland set upon his head, large as the holly bush upon a stake outside an alehouse, and he had a cake, a round one, which it was his joke to wield as if it were intended for a shield. He and a gentle pardoner rode together, a bird from Charing Cross of the same feather, just back from visiting the court of Rome. He loudly sang, "Come hither, love, come home." The summoner sang deep seconds to this song. No trumpet ever sounded half so strong. This pardoner had hair as yellow as wax, hanging down smoothly, like a hank of flax. In driblets fell his locks behind his head, down to his shoulder, which they overspread. Thinly they fell, like rat-tails, one by one. He wore no hood upon his head, for fun. The hood inside his wallet had been stowed. He aimed at riding in the latest mode. But for a little cap his head was bare, and he had bulging eyeballs like a hare. He'd sewed a holy relic on his cap. His wallet lay before him on his lap. Brimful of pardons come from Rome, all hot. He had the same small voice a goat has got. His chin no beard had harboured, nor would harbour. Smoother than ever chin was left by barber. I judge he was a gelding, or a mare. As to his trade, from Berwick down to Ware, there was no pardoner of equal grace. For in his trunk he had a pillow-case which he asserted was Our Lady's veil. He said he had a gobbet of the sail St. Peter had the time when he made bold to walk the waves, till Jesu Christ took hold. He had a cross of metal set with stones, and, in a glass, a rubble of pig's bones. And with these relics, any time he found some poor up-country parson to astound, on one short day, in money down, he drew more than the parson in a month or two, and by his flatteries and prevarication made monkeys of the priest and congregation. But still, to do him justice, first and last, in church he was a noble ecclesiast. How well he read a lesson, or told a story! But best of all, he sang an offertory, for well he knew that when that song was sung he'd have to preach and tune his honey tongue, and, well he could, win silver from the crowd. That's why he sang so merrily and loud. Now, I have told you shortly in a clause the rank, the array, the number, and the cause of our assembly in this company in Southwark, at that high-class hostelry known as the Tabard, close beside the Bell. And now the time has come for me to tell how we behaved that evening. I'll begin after we had alighted at the inn. Then I'll report our journey, stage by stage, all the remainder of our pilgrimage. But first, I beg of you in courtesy not to condemn me as unmannerly if I speak plainly and with no concealings, and give account of all their words and dealings, using their very phrases as they fell. For certainly, as you all know so well, he who repeats a tale after a man is bound to say, as nearly as he can, each single word, if he remembers it, however rudely spoken or unfit. Or else the tale he tells will be untrue, the things invented and the phrases new. He may not flinch, although it were his brother. If he says one word, he must say the other. And Christ himself spoke broad in Holy Writ, and, as you know, there's nothing there unfit. And Plato says, for those with power to read, the word should be as cousin to the deed. Further, I beg you to forgive it me if I neglect the order and degree and what is due to rank in what I've planned. I'm short of wit, as you will understand. Our host gave us great welcome. Everyone was given a place, and supper was begun. He served the finest victuals you could think. The wine was strong, and we were glad to drink. A very striking man, our host, withal, and fit to be a marshal in a hall. His eyes were bright, his girth a little wide. There is no finer burgess in Cheapside. Bold in his speech, yet wise and full of tact, there was no manly attribute he lacked. What's more, he was a merry-hearted man. After our meal, he jokingly began to talk of sport, and, among other things, after we'd settled up our reckonings, he said as follows. Truly, gentlemen, you're very welcome, and I can't think when, upon my word I'm telling you no lie, I've seen a gathering here that looked so spry, no, not this year, as in this tavern now. I'd think you up some fun if I knew how, and as it happens, a thought has just occurred, and it will cost you nothing on my word. You're off to Canterbury. Well, Godspeed. Blessed St. Thomas answer to your need. And I don't doubt, before the journey's done, you mean to while the time in tales and fun. Indeed, there's little pleasure for your bones riding along and all as dumb as stones. So let me then propose for your enjoyment, just as I said, a suitable employment. And if my notion suits, and you agree, and promise to submit yourselves to me, playing your parts exactly as I say, tomorrow, as you ride along the way, then by my father's soul, and he is dead, if you don't like it, you can have my head. Hold up your hands, and not another word. Well, our consent, of course, was not deferred. It seemed not worth a serious debate. We all agreed to it, at any rate, and bade him issue what commands he would. My lords, he said, now listen for your good, and please don't treat my notion with disdain. This is the point. I'll make it short and plain. Each one of you shall help to make things slip by telling 2 stories on the outward trip to Canterbury. That's what I intend. And on the homeward way to journey's end, another 2, tales from the days of old. And then, the man whose story is best told, that is to say, who gives the fullest measure of good morality and general pleasure, he shall be given a supper, paid by all, here in this tavern, in this very hall, when we come back again from Canterbury. And, in the hope to keep you bright and merry, I'll go along with you myself and ride all at my own expense, and serve as guide. I'll be the judge, and those who won't obey shall pay for what we spend upon the way. Now, if you all agree to what you've heard, tell me at once without another word, and I will make arrangements early for it. Of course, we all agreed. In fact, we swore it delightedly, and made entreaty, too, that he should act as he proposed to do, become our governor, in short, and be judge of our tales, and general referee, and set the supper at a certain price. We promised to be ruled by his advice, come high, come low. Unanimously thus, we set him up in judgment over us. More wine was fetched, the business being done. We drank it off, and up went everyone to bed without a moment of delay. Early next morning, at the spring of day, up rose our host, and roused us like a cock, gathering us together in a flock, and off we rode at slightly faster pace than walking to St. Thomas's watering place. And there our host drew up, began to ease his horse, and said, "Now, listen if you please, my lords. Remember what you promised me. If evensong and matins will agree, let's see who shall be first to tell a tale. And as I hope to drink good wine and ale, I'll be your judge. The rebel who disobeys, however much the journey costs, he pays. Now, draw for cut, and then we can depart. The man who draws the shortest cut shall start."